flying around the creation from plane to plane, not having a particular abode for himself, and help anyone who wants liberation or who wants liberation by giving him the consciousness of the highest spiritual touch. Since then, these five people are giving their presence to the creation. Anyone who is in the creation, however great his undoings and wrongdoings may be, however sinful he may be, his sins will be washed off from him. So, they are symbolic of the fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh principles. That is the Buddhic, Nirvanic, Paranirvanic and Mahaparanirvanic, which are only creative and not reproductive. This is how the allegories give us about Puranas, about Kumaras. Of course, the explanation requires much time. This is the basic principle as is expressed through the allegory. So, whenever there is Aquarius period, automatically these higher principles get a new stimulation. That doesn't mean they get a stimulation, but we the beings on this earth get their stimulation. And on the other side, there is the hierarchy, and the constitutions of the human beings on this earth are arranged in such a way that there is the law of correspondences working in us. So, the Manu and the Sanat Kumara, they have a correspondence with the head center of every one of us. For example, the North Pole of our earth has its correspondence with our head. The South Pole of our earth has its correspondence with our coccyx. And the whole vertebral column has its correspondence with the axis of rotation of our earth. What the masters do in their meditation is, they direct their disciples and followers to make a meditation daily through a process of what they call superimposition. That is, they imagine themselves occupying the whole earth from head to their tail, and then meditate the North Pole in their head center and South Pole in their coccyx, and gradually they make a contact on the higher planes with the corresponding points of the Earth's axis of rotation, and they receive a contact to the 7 centers in their vertebral column, and gradually the subcenters also. While doing so, they will experience the consciousness of the various continents of this earth and the various races and nations and their collective minds on this earth. This is one of the regular meditations of the masters and their disciples. This has a technical name. This process has a technical name. It is called Nyasa, which is very popular among the scriptures. And this is the most positive and most powerful meditation. More often, it has no exception that anyone does not experience any results. That means everyone has to enter into a contact with the humanity of this earth by following this method. So, according to this, the Shambhala has its contact with the head center of everyone, and the hierarchy headed by Lord Christ, whom we call Maitreya or Bodhisattva, has a correspondence with our heart. So, these centers, they will be revitalized on the earth whenever Aquarian age comes once again, as a result of which our corresponding centers are also revitalized. Yes, the stimulation will be according to that sub-age of that zodiacal sign. In the Aries signs, always the effect is on the higher planes. In the earthy signs, always the effect is on the material plane. And Aquarius is the subtlest of the three airy signs, and it is essentially spiritual and essentially universal in its consciousness. So those who accept training and discipline, they will have an automatic expansion into spiritual consciousness. And those who do not accept discipline also, they have an expansion of consciousness. Sometimes it may be on the positive direction, sometimes it may be on the negative direction. Anyhow, expansion will occur to every mind. That's why it is called space age every time Aquarian age comes. Experiments with space and experiments with international and universal values become inevitable whenever Aquarian age occurs. And the use of radioactive elements also becomes inevitable whenever Aquarian age occurs. So, the Vaivasvata Manu, the prototype in heaven of perfect man, takes up the role of the ruler of the new race. Maitreya works as the world teacher. Of course, in every cycle there will be the Christ of that time. For our time, it is called Maitreya. In a bigger cycles, the next disciple who is prepared to the level of Christ will be there. Whereas the present Christ gets his elevation into heaven to serve as the solar principle. It is a peculiar circulating type of activity. The whole activity starts from the sun, circulates through the planets in a peculiar succession, and once again, after this evolution cycle is completed in all the planets, it returns to the sun only to come back again into the planet, just as blood is going into the body distributed from the heart to all parts and again returning to the heart again to be redistributed. The whole solar system is also a system of vehicles, just as we are having our vehicles, and exactly the same type of activity occurs in the solar system also, similar to that of the circulation activity in our body. What prana is to our vehicles, the ethers of the solar system is there to the solar system. So it is only a difference in magnitude, but the phenomena is always this. So Maitreya works as the world teacher. They conduct the entire work with the aid of two of their chief disciples. Always in every cycle it happens like that. In the present cycle it is Moria and Kuthumi, and in every cycle there will be two people trained in that level. Yes, in the latest of their physical reincarnations, these two names were given by their parents, and Blavatsky came into contact with them. She popularized their names, and they are their code names, whereas their proper nouns will be different. Same thing with their disciple Jalkul also. They have a name which they preserve commonly for all the births and rebirths. And the name of Moria is Maru, which we find in the Puranas and Itihasas. About 5,600 years ago, he started his spiritual career as a disciple of a grand master called Parashara. This is according to the records of the Puranas and Itihasas. And in the language of Blavatsky, according to the tradition of Himalayan region of India, the name Maru is known as Moria, and the name Kuthumi, his code name in the Puranas was Devapi, a contemporary of Maru, who started his spiritual career almost the same period. Both of them were first trained and given the highest initiations by Parashara, and along with them, the son of Parashara also was trained in the same way. His name was Vedavyasa. And Parashara distributed the whole spiritual work to the three masters. To Vedavyasa, he has assigned the work of collecting the books of ancient spiritual wisdom and then systematizing them once again and clearing and purifying from that which is spurious. And then there are 18 grand formula which explain the whole spiritual science. And he is asked to dilate these 18 formula into 18 big allegories called the 18 Puranas. So like that the spiritual work is distributed. And in the 20th century, in the end of the 19th century, these two people selected Blavatsky as the mouthpiece to transmit all the spiritual wisdom once again in the would-be world language, that is English. That was the beginning, and she for the first time introduced those names to the public for two reasons. One is, from their point of view, there was only humanity, neither Occident nor Orient, and neither Russian nor Indian, and the psychological capabilities which she was having by birth made them pick her up to inaugurate once again a spiritual institution. So because of her very nature which is favorable to get their work done, that they selected. That is what we understand. Excuse me, I am not able to understand your point. Background, I can speak of only these two masters, and a person, whether a person has a background or not, can only be known by the work he or she has done. Unless we happen to be her parent or cousin or brother. As far as I am concerned, I am related to Blavatsky only through her works, and I find that it is the sufficient reason why they selected her, because she could reflect all that they transmit upon the paper totally. That capability of having a consistency and continuity of purpose and losing one's own existence for a higher cause, that is the only thing that makes one fit to be picked up. And when I was studying with my father the books Isis Unveiled and Secret Doctrine, at every step I found sufficient reason why they selected her, because I could understand the scriptures in the present light of my understanding only by reading those two books with my father. That is my experience with her works. Since the time until I read her books, I was a Hindu, but since the time I read those books with my father, I could understand the ancient wisdom of the scriptures as something different from any religion. And a little bit I could understand the human values different from religious values. If I am able to study by myself the original Indian scriptures, it is because of my association with her works. And since the age of 16 years till today, I am in repeated touch and continuous touch with her works. That is my experience. And I still find sufficient reason why they picked her up. As far as I am concerned, I don't prefer to question, because there stops our business. We have the books, we have the wisdom, and we have our common sense to apply to the books and select or reject. And the remaining things, they automatically take their place. When it is time, they will be known by us. In the meanwhile, I just feel that it may be a little bit imagination, and there may not be some basis sometimes if we go into that investigation. So I didn't prefer to probe into that aspect. So we'll continue tomorrow. Now I'll give you some general rules that are to be applied to the periods and sub-periods of planets. The first rule you can safely apply is planets that exist in 6th house, 8th house and 12th house have their periods and sub-periods yielding bad results. Remember that this is about predictive side of astrology, and the more spiritual and really advanced the person is, the evil becomes less and less, because what we call evil in astrology is only a purificatory process. That is the purging period of the bad karma effects of the fellow. The more advanced a person is, he will keep his mind open to limitations and restrictions, and many of the evils are washed off without any significance. An evil tendency takes expression on the physical plane only if the person denies any expression, that is, not accepting a communicative mind with others. This is a general rule. The more one has limitations and complexes, the more is the tendency to prove the evil effect of a planet.
Why?
And the more a person exercises his will to express himself out, that is, to make his intentions more open and known to others, and removes the objections in his mind, then automatically the incidents occur on the mental plane and they cease to occur on the physical plane. This is the limitation of predictive astrology, and this holds good whatever may be the method of application, whether it is Oriental or Occidental.
Okay.
You should be careful of this distinction. That is, when the evolution has taken a speedy progress, and when one is growing more impersonal, the physical plane incidents are gradually under the control of the person. This happens in slow degrees, and when the person belongs to a low type, then all the incidents that can be predicted, they may happen, and generally they happen, especially predictions of a negative or a bad nature. And according to the original authors of astrological science, astrology is not mainly for predictive purposes at all. It is for a corrective purposes, and it is rather a directive and advisory science. It is mainly for self-enlightenment, to know what are our weak points and what are our strong points, and where to apply ourselves and where not to apply, and when to act and when not to act. This is the main purpose, and more important purpose is to know our present position in evolution and to know the direction in which the indweller is traveling. For example, the ego or the permanent atom, he is the fellow who conducts the whole journey of evolution, and not at all the soul. The soul is only an onlooker and a spectator, whereas the indweller is the traveler, and his journey includes the first station from the mineral kingdom to the last station as a grand master of wisdom. Yes, exactly. The indweller, whom we call indweller or ego, in a technical sense, it is the same as we call monad in the Tibetan language. And the evolution in each life has to do mainly with the psychological capsule. That is what we call the individuality and the personality. During every birth, a new individuality and a new personality is taken again and again. But at the same time, there is something in continuity with the previous birth. And all the good and bad incidents in one life have their minimum and maximum of possibility according to the position of the monad in that birth, which can be known by the judging of the birth horoscope. That which is not potential in the birth horoscope can never happen during the periods. For example, if we say that when the Jupiter and Mercury are in trine to each other in the birth chart, during the sub-period of Jupiter and main period of Mercury, the fellow can get a, what we call, a financial luck. Generally people look to something like a lottery like thing. But unless the birth chart indicates such a thing, the periods and sub-periods can never bring any luck. So, it is only what is potential in the birth chart that comes true during periods and sub-periods. And even that, the evil is more surely coming true than the good incident for the ordinary average human being, for the simple reason which responds to our common sense. That is, whenever our time is favorable, we generally spend it with certain amount of ease, and our awareness and effort will be lessened. We are generally inclined to enjoy the good period when it escapes without any incident. And during the bad periods or evil sub-periods, since they indicate that which is our weak point, generally they occur more surely, because we are not ready to rectify our weak points so soon. So, generally speaking, the bad incidents among the predicted ones are more in number that happen than the good incidents. But for a real spiritual student, the bad incidents are reduced gradually in number, because a bad incident is only a result of carelessness and allowing our weak nature operate. So, the more we are submitting ourselves to spiritual discipline and the awareness of some master or some great soul, then automatically much of the evil will be neutralized. These limitations should be remembered. And as a general rule, planets that exist in these three houses at birth will produce a bad period during their periods and sub-periods. If it is the main period of, for example, 6 years sun period, all the 6 years will be generally discouraging, but there will be a modulation according to the sub-period. For example, sun's period and sun's sub-period, when sun is in one of these houses, it indicates a very sensitive time in health, and for many people the eyesight is affected, and if there is an affliction at birth to the sun, it is a sure indication of a worsening of eyesight or some accident or trouble to the right eye. And if it is moon's sub-period, for example, moon exists in the 9th house, which is a fortunate position for moon, then it will be slightly better. It is not as bad as sun's sub-period in sun, and also not as good as moon's sub-period in moon's period. The good that is expected by moon will be much reduced, but at the same time the discouragement that is expected of the sun's period also will be reduced. So the worst that happens is that the good results of the moon will be neutralized. Once again, if it is the sub-period of Mars in sun, you can expect a discouraging period once again, for the simple reason that Sun and Mars are fiery planets. Both of them are malefic planets. Remember, as a student of spiritualism, how the word malefic planet is meant. See, it is a technical term and never means that the planet is malefic. Spiritually, a malefic planet can be defined as a planet that squeezes out the bad that is there in the person's tendency. It creates an inevitability of expression to the existing evil. And if it is not there in his nature, it is not at all a malefic planet. So, according to this meaning, Sun, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, these are considered, Pluto also, these are considered to be malefic planets. Is a policeman good man or a bad man? Same thing here also. And the other set of planets, Jupiter. These are called benefic planets. In the sense, they squeeze out that which is good in the past of the fellow. And moon, when he is increasing, he belongs to the good planets. When he is decreasing, he belongs to the malefic planet. So, if you compare the malefic planets to police officers, you can compare the benefic planets to the cashiers in a bank where you have kept your money. Whenever you go and sign a paper, they will give you money, but it is only your money, and when your money is completed, they cannot give you even a single mark. Any doubts? Yes?
Don't appear.
In that particular system of dashas, yes, periods, yes, it is a new dimension and a new discovery, and until we can make experiments and verifications of the dashas, including the new planets also, we can use them only for transits and progression purposes. But we can reconstruct the dasha system if we conduct certain experiments with some hundreds of horoscopes and include these new planets. What is required is the ratios of the periods of planets. For example, the 12-year cycle of Jupiter and the 30-year cycle of Saturn, they bear a mutual ratio to each other. The dasha system is based upon the magnitudes of these ratios. We should apply the basic principles including all the planets, and we can construct the whole system once again. Until then we can use them in transits. No, only some astrologers do not apply. There are many astrologers who apply and who have given good literature in Occident also. There are. For example, if you study the books of Alan Leo, he has categorized some pages for the explanation of moon's nodes, and also authors like Max Hindell, etc. Yes, we will come in a systematic way so that we may remember them better. So first of all, let us understand the technical term malefic planets and benefic planets, and also about Mercury. If Mercury is in conjunction with any one of the malefic planets, he also acts as a malefic planet. When he is either independent or in conjunction with one of the benefic planets, he behaves as a benefic planet. Benefic? Yes, I will explain it. So you can arrange subperiods in your mind like this. Sun's subperiod in Sun's main period, Mars subperiod, South Node's subperiod, and Saturn's subperiod. They can be understood as malefic. And North Node's subperiod, Jupiter, Mercury, and Venus, you can consider them as benefic subperiods. And if the moon is increasing in the horoscope, you can add moon in the benefic side. Otherwise, you have to add to this side. Yes. And if any one of these planets are in these houses, the evil effect is more. And if any one of these planets, that is benefic planets, are in these houses, the evil effect is much less. But they do not give their benefic effect at all. They are like cashiers in the bank where you have no account. They can sympathize with you, but they cannot help. This is one rule which you can apply. An exception to this rule is when these planets are in their own houses and exaltation. For example, if the ascendant is Scorpio, Saturn is in Libra and 12th house. This Saturn is not at all malefic during his periods or sub-periods. He gives only good results. Similarly, if Saturn is in Capricorn, he may be in the 8th house or 6th house or 12th house. For example, Aquarius, the ascendant, Saturn is in Capricorn and 12th house. You can be sure that he never harms. But at the same time, he helps during his periods and sub-periods, but he keeps the fellow always in a deep sense of responsibility and care night and day. He will put him to all inconveniences, and wherever he is negligent, he is pointed out and he is exposed. So there is much inconvenience on the psychological level, whereas everything is safe on the physical plane. You can say that it is a purificatory process under safe conditions, and before the sub-period ends, the fellow will be placed in a better and advanced position in life. He is left more experienced of the worldly and spiritual affairs, and he finds himself knowing the psychology of his fellow beings better than he was knowing previously. So this is one exception. Another exception, which is an exception to this exception, when the planet in the one house and the planet in exaltation is in opposition or square or conjunction to a malefic planet. If these two are malefic planets, one of them is in one houses or exaltation, another is not at all in the dignities, but there is a square or an opposition or a conjunction. For example, the ascendant is Capricorn, there is Mars in the 12th house, square with Saturn in Aries. Then it gives worst results during the two periods. Whether it is Mars sub-period in Saturn's period or Saturn's sub-period in Mars period, it gives equally worst results. That is, one planet is in dignities, ascendant is Aquarius, not Capricorn. Excuse me, the first house ascendant is Aquarius, Mars is in Capricorn in his highest degree of exaltation. In the 12th house, he is having a perfect square with Saturn from Aries. Sure as anything, the fellow can give a car accident and a cripple of the body. So the fellow should be careful in his driving as long as the sub-period runs. Especially more sure if the Mars is having a good aspect with a benefic planet. For example, this birth Mars was having a sextile with Venus. This is a practical case which has occurred that I am quoting. The fellow is Aquarius ascendant and 12th house is in Capricorn and Saturn is in Capricorn 12 degrees. Mars is Capricorn 12 degrees and Saturn is in Aries about 10 degrees and odd, and Venus is about 10 degrees in Scorpio. This is actually a horoscope, and the Mars period has entered and the Saturn sub-period just entered when he purchased a new car because of the sextile of Venus.
Bring the sextile for Venus.
Venus made him purchase a beautiful car, and there was a crash, a headlong crash of his new car to another car driven by a young lady. And the fellow had a permanent damage done to his right shoulder. Her horoscope is not known. Because we know this fellow, we had his horoscope, and an astrologer advised him not to purchase a car during that sub-period. Another astrologer advised him to purchase a car. So there are two astrologers, one indicated by Mars and another indicated by Saturn. Yes. The one fellow who is indicated by Mars will always advise him for the better. The one fellow who is indicated by Saturn will always advise him for the worse, because Mars is well placed and Saturn is ill placed in the horoscope. For this reason, we have to remember the descriptions given under planets separately. Suppose the fellow has two friends. If the one fellow is a Martian and if the other fellow is a Saturnian, the common sense of astrology tells him during this sub-period he should follow the advice of the Martian friend. Always try to avoid the advice of the Saturnian friend. It is for this reason the astrologers give us the description of the persons influenced by planets. A planet afflicts the planet who is in exaltation or own house, then there is an intense evil effect, and generally an incident is forced to occur. Another exception, if the two planets are in dignities, that is either own house or exaltation, then the conjunction or square or opposition